everyone, I'm Shakiba from Markable team and welcome to Bubbly Talking Show.
Hi Shakiba and hi everybody. My name is 10, like the number, and I'm on a mission to walk and hitchhike the world solo, unassisted, and with my third world passport. So basically this trip, this hiking and hitchhiking trip has been done by a lot of people, but they all have a lot of things in common. Besides bravery, they have a privileged passport. They don't come from a minority country like me. So for me, this kind of travel is much more difficult than it seems. Because in order for me to cross borders or to be able to actually enter a country, I have to go through hoops just to apply for a visa. And I'm doing this trip because I love to learn more about new cultures. I love exploring new places. I love presenting testaments of human kindness and proving that everybody, regardless of what God they believe in, what flag they're under, what are their cultures, their backgrounds, their socioeconomic status, we're all tied together by the same thread. Second, I do this journey to be able to empower women. As I've said, I'm a solo female traveler. And doing so, I've faced a lot of stereotypes. People have told me you should be at home, you should have children, you should get married, you should find a partner. But no, a woman chooses what life she wants to lead. And nothing is more scary in a patriarchal world than a woman who knows what she wants and goes for it. And the third is to also proclaim the inaccessibility of travel. I want to raise awareness about how travel can be inaccessible for certain genders, certain groups, certain passport holders, and certain even like people with sexuality or even their religion. They get discriminated. They're not allowed to travel. Even with people with disabilities, there are a lot of tourist sites that don't have signs that are written in Braille, hostels and hotels that don't have wheelchair access. There's a lot of things that we can talk about that proves that travel has its own inequalities, and travel is not just a bubble, it's a mirror of the society that we live in. So I'm doing this trip not only for myself, but also for all these advocacies that I carry, because I do believe that you cannot separate travel from the real world. It intertwines with life, and for people like me, travel is life.
Yes, I know about your goal because I follow you in Instagram and read your caption. You have very inspiration caption for all the women and all the travelers that maybe stopped because of the pandemic or everything else. But let me ask you something about your start as a woman. How did you start to travel as a hitchhiker? Why did you choose this type of traveling?
Well, I started hitchhiking because at first I was like looking for a way to get out of the regular travel. So I have been traveling then for a couple of months, and I found buses and trains not that exciting because you sleep in the bus and the next day you wake up, you're there, and you go to a tourist site and everything just became so regular, so routine. There was no magic in it anymore. And I viewed hitchhiking as a way for me to actually connect with different cultures, because if I hadn't hitchhiked, I wouldn't have been to a lot of places that were not on the map. I wouldn't have, through hitchhiking, I stayed in a Buddhist monastery for 2 weeks, in the mountains of Tibet, and this village was not in a map at all. I couldn't find it. If I hadn't hitchhiked as well,
you never scary to stay in something village that it's not existed in a map. Absolutely.
No, because it's just when you hitchhike, of course there is always a risk, male or female. It's not just with women, it's always a risk, because you're putting your life, your safety into the hands of the strangers. But the thing is, I think we've been told by the media that the world is a very dangerous place, that the world doesn't deserve to be trusted, that people are very hostile, people will do anything to take advantage of you. But the fact is, 90% of my hitchhiking experiences, they were amazing. Like I told you, staying in the monasteries in Tibet, I was invited to an annual mountain festival in Myanmar because of a truck that I spontaneously hitchhiked. I stayed with lots of kind families who have helped me along the way. I've been to waterfalls that tourists don't usually go to. I've camped with people because I hitchhiked with them. I've been to the beach, walked with them. I just had a lot of good experiences from it. And if I closed myself, if I told myself that, hey, this is not this is going to be dangerous, if I keep thinking about that, if I keep thinking and basing my worldview on the stereotypes that are placed in every country that I've been to, every person that I meet, I wouldn't have this great understanding of a culture, of a tradition, of the religion, of even the language of every country that I've been to. So I think that I chose to travel like this by hiking because I love the mountains, or by hitchhiking because I love the people, because I do believe that, the heart and soul of a country is in its people.
You told us about some trouble that maybe men and women maybe get into. Could you please tell us about some of this trouble that maybe if I want to start to hitchhiking, I should know it before start to do something like that?
So every hitchhiker has a different experience. So no two hitchhikers have the same experience. And especially if you are a woman and if you're a minority like me, it's more difficult to hitchhike. It's definitely a lot of difficulties. So for example, as a woman, as we all know, the world is not yet 100% safe for women.
Yes.
And more often than not, we are subject to sexual harassment. We are subject to, these sexist questions like, shouldn't you be just going,
shouldn't
getting married?
Go alone. And you shouldn't go alone. You should go with someone else. Travel. Yes.
Exactly. But the thing is, always just be prepared. That's my advice. Be prepared for all of these questions. Be prepared when you're out there. You can't come to a battlefield without armor or when you're unarmed. So for me, my advice is first would not to be hitchhiking at night. Stop hitchhiking at night. Build a connection with your drivers. If you're really, really nervous, start to hitchhike and only consider getting in the vehicles of families. Families are absolutely they won't harm you, It's 100%. Or if there is a parent and a kid, that's always good. A couple is also nice, or a female driver, So if you can find those things, then definitely you are more safer than I would say. And, but it's I know that not all men, but we don't know which men. That's the thing. I'm just telling everybody, I know that maybe some males will see this and oh, you're discriminating against men. But the truth is, we know that it's not all men, but it's just we don't know which men. And it's always good to
good sentences.
yeah. It's just good to be prepared for anything. So for me, I'm armed with a knife. I'm armed with pepper spray. I also have a packet of peppers, the ground peppers, red or blue. If you can't find a pepper spray, because sometimes it can be difficult to get a hold of it, you can throw ground pepper into the eyes of your attacker. I'm equipped also with a little bit of Muay Thai training, so I can do some self-defense. And just to tell you, it's all in your thinking. The more that you think that this hitchhiking experience will be negative, the more that it will be negative. The more that you think about it as a positive experience, the more that you will attract positive people. And as a minority, of course, there is also difficulties. For example, some people who enter, let's say a country like Georgia, people who are visa-free there or who come from a more privileged country have 90 days for free in Georgia. Meanwhile, I have to apply for a visa that only gets me 30 days. So for them, hitchhiking can be slower. But for me, I have to do it faster. So it's also time difference. And if you're not very careful, you can risk overstaying your visa. You can risk some legal consequences, and it's not very nice, So all of this, and also sometimes the land borders don't allow you to pass just because of the national passport that you hold, which is really, really terrible.
Yes.
Just in the Myanmar island. So it's quite sad. So no hitchhiker experience is the same, and of course it's much more difficult as a female and as a third world passport holder. So yeah, but as for in general, you can face some bandits, these people who steal things, thieves. Just be vigilant, be aware of your surroundings, never sleep on a hitchhike, try as much as possible to be alert. If you don't feel safe, get out of the car. A tip that I would probably give is to pack two backpacks. I can put all of my things in one backpack, but I pack two. So I have one heavy bag for all of my camping gear, and I have the second bag for all of my important stuff. So when I need to get out of the car, I have my mobility. And whenever your gut feeling tells you that this is not safe, this is not a safe situation, be firm, be upfront. If somebody wants to touch you, tell them no. If somebody is asking questions that are uncomfortable, tell them that you are uncomfortable. Just be firm about it.
And be strong and never show that you care about it.
Exactly. And if they don't see it, then you are free to always get out of the car. And also another tip is to share your live location. It's always good to be able to share your live location to people. Oh, I'm here. If you don't feel safe, especially they can see your live location in a messenger for 8 hours, 1 hour, or even 30 minutes until you get to your destination. And always tell the driver that you have friends in this place. You have friends, you're never alone,
But you told us about that you have some weapon with yourself, knife or something like that. Have you ever used them during your travel?
Of course. Okay, so I would like to also put a trigger warning for anybody who's listening. So if you have suffered from sexual harassment or a rape attempt, please stop listening to the audio or skip to the next few minutes, because I don't want you to have any flashbacks. So I was actually a victim of an attempted rape in Thailand. A 17-year-old boy tried to bring me to the border because I was doing my border visa run and I was in a rush. And I just got on his bike, and he brought me to a rice field that was like, I don't know how many kilometers it was from the border. And he was just like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to take money from my mother because I don't have gas enough for the border. And I said, okay, it's fine. But the minute that I saw that he brought me to a place with no houses, no lights, I knew already that there was something bad. And the mistake that I did was that I didn't follow my gut feeling. And that's why I'm always telling people to follow theirs. If you feel that something is wrong, get off the vehicle, stop the ride. And I didn't do it because, I was just, on my first year of travel.
I think you trust them. You don't have any special experience and you trust them to going to there.
And he's like a 17-year-old boy still took me there, and I almost died in Thailand. I had the training to beat him, so he was trying to drown me in the mud. But I was lucky because I do free diving, so I know how to control my breath. He was beating me and he cut off a tree branch to beat me, and I walked out with my face was swollen, with my ribs were swollen as well. And the thing is, after that I had no more days left in my visa, so I was not given the time in Thailand to go to a hospital to undergo psychological treatment, because it's a very traumatic event. And so I did what I knew how to do. I hitchhiked to Malaysia.
Oh my
I still
God.
didn't, because I had no choice. They wouldn't extend my, and I was forced to leave the country. I crossed the border to Malaysia, and to Malaysia I met my family there. I stayed, not my real family, but a family that I stayed with before. Near the border. They accepted me, and they hosted me for 3-4 days. They saw how bad my face looked. They gave me treatment, and they were a group of women, so it was a clear example of how women were helping each other. Women were supporting each other, and I stayed with them until Eid al-Fitr, I think, or another Eid al-Adha. I don't know. I don't remember which Eid. It was a long time ago. And I remember that they gave me my traditional Malaysian village wear. It's called kampung. Kampung is village in Malay. And they gave me my traditional village wear complete with my hijab, because it was a celebration. And that whenever I would enter masjid in Malaysia, I wouldn't have trouble to find a headscarf for me. And it was an amazing experience because I was really, really broken. I almost died. And if these women
hard.
And if I hadn't found this family and these women who helped me, then I wouldn't be here on the road today. I wouldn't have continued, and I wouldn't have, they restored the faith that
How
I
you
lost.
forgot all this bad feeling that's happening in your life and start to do it again? Because when we have bad situation in our life, we cannot start it again because we scare about something like that, and we don't like to have this kind of problem again. So how you forgot all of this situation and all of this? Oh, I don't know. I forgot my words because it's so bad.
Yeah, but I think that what's important to say is that you never forget. All these bad situations, pain, fear, grief, the loss of a loved one, going bankrupt, or sexual abuse, we never forget these. I just think that as individuals, we grow around it. We learn to live with it. We learn how to overcome it day by day. Like for me, whenever I come outdoors alone and I hear sounds outside my tent, I get very afraid. Whenever a man suddenly touches me, like when I'm in a bazaar, and the man just suddenly touches me to shove me aside, and excuse me, I get really nervous. Whenever, I find a partner and he raises his voice at me, it's very, very scary for me already. And all of these things, you learn how to live with it. It never goes away. All of these bad situations, you grow with it. You grow over it. Sometimes it grows over you. Sometimes you don't have a choice, but it just tangles up with you. It gets you on bad days. It leaves you alone on good days. So it never goes away. But I think that with my particular incident, it's just that if I don't go forward, if I don't keep hitchhiking, if I don't keep traveling, I am giving the power to that 17-year-old boy. And as a woman, we've been out of power for a long time, and I want to take it back. And that's how I view my journey, and that's why I didn't stop, and that's why I grew out of it, because I really, really want it to be back, to be my power, not his. This is my story and not his. People think it's a really beautiful life that I chose to stay in a foreign country during the pandemic. I chose not to go back home. I chose to keep going. But the thing is, I've been through a lot of things in my journey. I've been through a pandemic. I've lost my passport. I've nearly died. Like I've told you, I encountered a cyst, a 20-kilogram cyst, in my ovary, and they had to take it off, and I had to be in surgery and in healing for 6 months. And
you passed lots of hard situation.
Exactly. And to top it all off, every day sometimes you face sexual harassment because you're a woman. And when you cross the border, you're always discriminated. When you apply for a visa, you're always discriminated. You're always dehumanized. You have some visa papers saying, are you a terrorist? Are you gonna go and do some terrorist acts? That I have to every day worry about myself. Nobody can take care of me. I have to be independent. To face all of these things that I did not choose. I didn't choose to be born in the Philippines. I didn't choose to have this passport.
Yes.
So it was just a given.
What we should do, because we don't have anything, just political things between all the people in all around the world, and we as a human should accept it, and it's not something good for our countries. Absolutely.
And it also adds to the stress, and I think that now I've started to travel again a little bit, and I really want to keep traveling, but I also start to acknowledge that I need some rest. I need sometimes to support from people. I need to be able to lean on other people, to also acknowledge that I have emotions that allow me to feel weak. I have days where I need people to take care of me, to be amongst people that I trust. And I've always believed in I know this pandemic has led me to stop my trip, but I've always believed in that sometimes things happen for a reason.